My name is Melissa Cutler, and this is an introduction to psychology. In this video, I will discuss psychology, theorists involved in psychology, body systems, development, and more. Psychology is the scientific study of behavior and mental processes. There are 4 goals in psychology. The first is description, which asks the question, what's happening, and helps to understand a behavior or action. The second is explanation, which asks the question, why is this happening? The third goal is prediction and asks, when will it happen again? And the fourth goal is control, which asks, how do we control this? And helps to change certain wanted or unwanted behaviors. Edward Titchener had a structural perspective. He studied the structures of the mind and broke experiences into emotions and sensations. Sigmund Freud had a psychoanalysis perspective with an emphasis on the unconscious mind and early childhood development. He used insight therapy for fear and anxiety. John Watson was the father of behaviorism and believed that fears were learned behaviors. Jean Piaget had a cognitive perspective and focused on memory, intelligence, perception, problem solving, and so on. Research is a careful and detailed study into a specific problem, concern, or issue using the scientific method. Research is important in the field of psychology because it helps researchers to learn and understand human behavior and answer specific questions. Psychological research helps to measure, describe, and categorize human behavior. It helps to understand what makes people think, feel, and act in certain ways, and allows us to categorize psychological disorders to understand the symptoms and impact on the individual and society. The scientific method consists of 5 steps. First, you form a question. You ask a question about something you observe: how, what, when, where, who, which, or why. Second, you develop a hypothesis, which is an educated guess as to what the answer to your question could be that can be tested. Third, you test the hypothesis by doing an experiment to see whether your prediction is accurate or not. The fourth step is collecting data from the experiment in the last step. You gather all your numbers and other data and analyze them. The fifth and final step is to form a conclusion and state whether your results support or contradict your hypothesis. There are several career options in the field of psychology, but to name a few, there is clinical psychology, where the psychologist diagnoses and treats people with psychological disorders that range from mild to severe. Industrial and organizational psychology is the area of psychology concerned with the relationships between people and their work environment. Neuropsychology is the area of psychology in which psychologists specialize in the research or clinical implications of brain behavior relationships. Then there is psychiatry, which is the study and treatment of mental illness, emotional disturbance, and abnormal behavior. Psychiatry is the only profession that can provide medication because of their medical training as well as their psychological training. The nervous system is an extensive network of specialized cells that carries information to and from all parts of the body. The central nervous system is made up of the brain and spinal cord. It receives information from the sensory organs via nerves and transmits information through the spinal cord and processes it in the brain. The peripheral nervous system is all the nerves and neurons that are not part of the brain and spinal cord, but that run through the body itself. The nervous system helps all the parts of the body to communicate with each other. It uses both electrical and chemical means to send and receive messages. The cerebellum, also known as the hindbrain, is located at the back of the brain, just below the occipital lobes. It's involved with fine motor skills, balance, and muscle control. The medulla is a long stem-like structure that makes up part of the brainstem. It is responsible for functions ranging from breathing and swallowing to sneezing and vomiting. The hypothalamus is a small but important area in the center of the brain. It regulates body temperature and releases hormones. Another part of the brain is the amygdala, which plays a key role in the processing of emotions such as fear. The amygdala triggers the fight or flight response in our bodies. Neurons, also known as nerve cells, send and receive signals from the brain. Neurons are made up of axons, which are tube-like structures that carry the neural messages from the cell body to the axon terminals for communications with other cells. The axon terminals, which are the enlarged ends of the axonal branches of the neuron, specialize for communication between cells. The dendrites, which are branch-like structures of a neuron that receive messages from other neurons, and the soma or cell body, which maintains the life of the cell. Neurotransmitters are chemicals found in the synaptic vesicles that, when released, have an effect on the next cell. Dopamine is an excitatory or inhibitory neurotransmitter that controls movement and the sensation of pleasure. Serotonin is excitatory or inhibitory that controls mood, sleep, and appetite. There's also GABA, which is inhibitory and controls sleep and inhibits movement, as well as glutamate, which is excitatory and is responsible for learning, memory, formation, nervous system development, and nervous system plasticity. The endocrine system is a collection of glands that produce hormones that regulate metabolism, growth and development, tissue function, sexual function, reproduction, sleep, and mood, among other things. It is made up of the hypothalamus, pituitary gland, pineal gland, thyroid gland, thymus gland, pancreas, adrenal glands, ovaries in females, and gonads or testes in males. Sensation is the process that occurs when special receptors in the sense organs are activated, allowing various forms of outside stimuli to become neural signals in the brain. Perception is the method by which the sensations experienced at any given moment are interpreted and organized in some meaningful fashion. Consciousness is a person's awareness of everything that is going on around him or her at any given time. Learning is any relatively permanent change in behavior brought about by experience or practice. Memory is an active system that senses, organizes, stores, and retrieves information. Cognition is the mental action or process of acquiring knowledge and understanding through thought, experience, and the senses. Intelligence is the ability to learn from one's experiences, acquire knowledge, and use resources effectively in adapting to new situations or solving problems. Language is a system for combining symbols so that an unlimited number of meaningful statements can be made for the purpose of communicating with others. Health is a person's mental or physical condition. Stress is the term used to describe the physical, emotional, cognitive, and behavioral responses to events that are appraised as threatening or challenging. Critical thinking is making reasoned judgments about claims. Drug addiction has a psychological impact on users. They can range from short to long-term changes in the brain, which can lead to mental health issues, including paranoia, depression, anxiety, hallucinations, and other problems. Sexually transmitted infections are infections that can be caught or passed on when you have unprotected sex or close sexual contact with another person who already has an STI. 4 sexually transmitted infections are chlamydia, a bacterial infection that grows within the body's cells with symptoms of swollen testicles, discharge, and burning during urination. Syphilis, a bacterial infection with symptoms of sores that appear on or in the genital area and can be spread to other body parts and the brain. Genital warts, caused by the human papillomavirus, or HPV, with symptoms of warty growths on the genitals. AIDS is caused by the human immunodeficiency virus, or HIV, with symptoms of severe malfunction and eventual breakdown of the immune system. The ages and the stages of development through the human lifespan tend to change depending on what you read or where you get your information from. But in this class, I learned that the stages of development are prenatal, which is conception to birth, infancy, birth to 1 year, toddler, 2 to 3 years old, early childhood, 3 to 6 years old, middle childhood, 6 to 9 or 6 to 12 years old, adolescence, 12 to 18 years old, emerging adulthood, 19 to 25 years old, young adulthood, 25 to 45 years old, middle adulthood, 45 to 70 years old, and late adulthood is 70 and older. Obsessive compulsive disorder, or OCD, is a mental disorder in which people have unwanted and repeated thoughts, feelings, ideas, sensations, and behaviors that drive them to do something over and over. Often the person carries out the behaviors to get rid of the obsessive thoughts, but this only provides short-term relief. Not doing the obsessive rituals can cause great anxiety and distress. There is no known cause for the disorder, but it can be treated with a combination of cognitive behavioral therapy and medication. Thank you for watching my video on an introduction to psychology. My hope is that it was informative and that you were able to learn something you might not have known. Although this is just for a psychology class, I would like to remind you that psychological disorders, as well as drug and alcohol abuse, among other things, are real. And if you or anyone you know needs help, please keep these numbers and websites in mind, and don't be afraid to reach out and get help or to help someone in need. You can also visit www.hillcollege.edu/safety/health.html to find a ton of resources for any mental or physical health need you might have or need information on.